Hi ladies, we're going to talk more about thyroid today. Today we're going to talk about how thyroid can affect your fertility, what the symptoms of thyroid hypothyroidism are, and some other details about how your thyroid interacts with gluten and why gluten sensitivity is endemic with thyroid challenges. And yeah, we're going to learn a little bit more about that. So first, I'm going to talk to you about what the symptoms are of thyroid disorder look like. So we have cold hands and feet, feeling like your hair is falling out or straw-like hair. You feel colder than most people, slow bowel movement or constipation. Can look like depression, can look like anxiety, weight gain, fatigue, and it's mostly unexplained weight gain. So mood issues, aches and pains, chronic colds and other illnesses, dry skin. Now, what most women don't know is what it looks like in terms of fertility and your cycle. So there is a progesterone connection with thyroid, and you need thyroid hormone to produce progesterone. So if you have low progesterone, that could also be a signifier. And what low progesterone looks like clinically is a shorter or longer cycle than is typical for a menstrual cycle for you, a lighter or heavier bleeding than is typical for you, and longer or shorter windows for bleeding than is typical for you, and a low basal body temperature, which would be in like the 96.4 or lower area. Now, if you're using an AVA bracelet or some sort of meter that checks your skin temperature, that's not going to be, if it's like 96.4, then you have to add like a degree more for the temperature on your skin. So I'm talking about tongue temperature should be above 96.5 degrees. If you have consistently low BBTs, that's a really good indicator that your thyroid is struggling to keep the warmth going in your body. So again, thyroid affects every metabolic function in your body. There's thyroid receptors in every cell. It can also create anovulatory cycles. So thyroid hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's will prevent your body from fully ovulating your ovaries. So it can look like anovulation, can also look like low sex drive, PMS, painful periods, not getting your period, recurrent miscarriages, and fertility issues. And those can be caused by either underactive or overactive thyroid, some of those. So birth control pill can cause thyroid issues. It can trigger that. I know we talked about the causes for thyroid challenges, the last video. If you wanted to go look at that, you can check that out. That's the last video I posted. And okay, so here's more about how it can affect your fertility. So hypothyroidism can affect your ability to carry a fetus to full term. So the presence of the autoimmune antibodies with or without hypothyroidism can also impact your fertility. So what I mean by that is we were talking about the antibodies last time, and briefly we talked about the antibodies. So with the thyroid antibodies, they are something that you need to test in addition to your TSH. And there are two of them, and they are, excuse me, I'm gonna just pull them up really quick. TPO, and TPO is thyroid peroxidase, TPO. That is an enzyme normally found in the thyroid gland, which plays an important role in the production of thyroid hormones. And a TPO test detects antibodies against TPO in the blood. The presence of TPO antibodies in your blood suggests that the cause of thyroid disease is an autoimmune disorder, such as Hashimoto's in the case of hypo and Graves' in the case of hyper. Then we have thyroid globulin antibodies, TG antibodies, and a negative test is considered normal. And if you even have small amounts, thyroid globulin antibodies, even small amounts, it can indicate an autoimmune condition like Hashimoto's or Graves'. So talking about those, we're going to come back and talk a little bit about more about this. So abnormal TSH levels can interfere with fear of ovulation. Okay, so you go and say I would give you a link to a test. I do this with the women that I work with one-on-one and in my group coaching. You take a test to find out what's going on with your thyroid antibodies and your TSH generally. And say you have thyroid antibody activity, but your TSH is below what I said too. That still means that there is something going on with autoimmune and Hashimoto's. So it can literally take years for your TSH to reflect any kind of upset with the antibodies. So this is why it's dangerous for you to go to your doctor and determine your thyroid health based upon a TSH test, because that's only telling you part of the story. So we want to go deeper. We want to go underlying. We want to see what's happening with everything. So one thing we can see, a luteal phase disruption if there's abnormal TSH or thyroid disorder, again, because it's mediated by progesterone levels. And again, implantation could be a problem. Early miscarriage can be a problem because of incomplete implantation. So let's talk about thyroid and progesterone. Progesterone and thyroid hormones have a reciprocal relationship. You need adequate amounts of thyroid or hormone for your ovaries to make progesterone, but your progesterone also helps the thyroid. So research shows that progesterone can increase thyroid hormone levels in the blood. Progesterone also decreases the amount of protein that carries thyroid in the blood so that more thyroid hormone can be free and get into cells. So there's like this mutual reciprocal relationship there. And estrogen and thyroid hormones. Estrogen is called a Goldilocks hormone. So too little or too much of it can cause huge problems. So we need just the right amount, Goldilocks and the three bears. And this applies to how estrogen impacts the thyroid. So estrogen stimulates thyroid growth. Too little estrogen may result in not enough thyroid tissue, which could result in an enlarged thyroid gland. Estrogen also stimulates the thyroid to make the thyroid hormone precursor, thyroid globulin. Too little estrogen may lead to not enough thyroid hormone precursor, while too much can result in an enlarged thyroid due to high thyroid globulin. Estrogen also increases the protein that carries thyroid hormone through the blood. And if we have too much of this program, then not enough hormones will be free and unbound in order to enter the cells to support the cellular metabolism. And that can lead to symptoms of hypothyroidism, even if you have enough thyroid hormones. So there's like multiple things that could go on. So we talked about the antibodies, and I think that's all we're going to talk about today in terms of the thyroid. Oh, we can talk about gluten too. So, all right, gluten is really bad for thyroid problems. So, like I said, we have a very undiagnosed, underdiagnosed thyroid epidemic in our country. And we also have a gluten epidemic in our country where everyone eats it. So there's a number of reasons why this can be problematic. So when we're talking about the gut health is so important with Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's can present with other symptoms like IBS, acid reflux, diarrhea, constipation, bloating, gastrointestinal distress. And many women who have gluten intolerance or celiac disease can go on to develop Hashimoto's. So it's like the chicken and egg. So I'm not sure which kind of comes first, but if you're eating gluten and you have some thyroid antibody activity occurring, this is going to exacerbate and send everything into overdrive. So celiacs are much more likely to have antibodies against the thyroid than normal people. So there is a real connection there. And eating gluten can help, eating gluten-free can help normalize hypothyroidism. So there's been studies done on that. There's also a strong link via studies between autoimmune thyroid disease like Graves' or Hashimoto's and gluten intolerance. And the link is so well established that researchers suggest all people with autoimmune thyroid disease be screened for gluten intolerance and vice versa. So gluten, one of the main reasons we don't want to eat wheat and other gluten-containing grains is that it contains gliadin. Gliadin has been shown to increase zonulin production and thus directly contribute to leaky gut. If you've heard of leaky gut, it's when the tight junctions in your tissue, in your small intestine, tear, and what happens is the food that's in your gut starts to leak into your bloodstream, into, open into the rest of your body, which is extremely dangerous because then your body is like, what is this? It's a foreign object, creates more autoimmune response to clear out that toxin and that enemy. So we don't want that to happen. So leaky gut is something we want to support. And as some of you know, bone broth is really amazing for that. I drank a cup of bone broth that I made. I warmed it up on the stove with a little bit of salt and drank it, like literally a measurement cup size, and drank that every day while I was getting my body prepared to conceive. There's so much evidence that that helps heal your gut, and it's one part of the picture. That could be something that you could do to start that process. I believe it helped me conceive and carry my baby. So basically, it's a case of mistaken identity. So the molecular structure of gliadin, the protein portion of gluten closely resembles that of the thyroid gland. So basically, your body thinks that the gluten is actually the gliadin, the protein portion of gluten, your body thinks it's thyroid. And then when gliadin breaches the protective barrier of the gut, when it comes out, remember we were talking about that, and enters the bloodstream, the immune system tags it for destruction. And these antibodies to gliadin also cause the body to attack the thyroid tissue. So it's kind of like your body's attacking the gliadin, your body attacks the thyroid because it thinks it's thyroid. So that means if you have autoimmune thyroid disease and you eat foods containing gluten, your immune system will attack your thyroid. I hope that makes sense. That's a lot of information. But what's even worse, and this is what's really important that I try and tell women, it's really difficult to give up gluten. And if you don't think you have a reason to do it, then you're not really motivated. So I would test your thyroid. I would test to see if you have a gliadin sensitivity. I do. I am completely gluten-free. It was helpful for me to get the test because then I was like, okay, I know I cannot do it again. I can't cheat once or twice. And this is why it's important for you if you're trying to conceive and if you're trying to carry full to term, if you're trying to build your family. The immune response to gluten for someone who has autoimmune thyroid disorder can last up to 6 months each time you eat it. So that's why it's critical to eliminate gluten completely from your diet if you have autoimmune thyroid disease. There is not an 80-20 rule with this. Being mostly gluten-free is not going to cut it. If you're gluten intolerant, you have to be 100% gluten-free to prevent immune destruction of your thyroid. So I'm going to leave you to nibble on that. Put below if you have tried going gluten-free, if you think you might need to, if you have any realizations because of this. I want to hear about it, and I look forward to talking to you soon. All right, take care, ladies. Thanks.